While companies are already preparing for the no deal, Boris Johnson's government is not making it. That has an impact. Boris Johnson beamed into the cameras last Sunday. "We are more than adequately prepared. We have been working on it 4.5 years. Whatever is decided now, Britain will do very, very well," said the British Prime Minister. In reality, the consequence of a so-called no deal for the UK would be dire. That threatens if the British government and the EU cannot agree on a free trade agreement by the end of the year, and trade between the EU and the UK is suddenly subject to tariffs from January. Last Sunday, the President of the EU Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, and Johnson announced the negotiations would continue for the time being. And on Wednesday, it was announced that at least one of the last 3 major issues was resolved, but 2 still remain. But Johnson was again talking about how wonderful it would be if UK stepped out of the EU after a 1-year transition period to Australian terms. And that is deliberate misleading. "We have no agreement with the EU and therefore massive difficulties in trade," warned the former Prime Minister of Australia, Malcolm Turnbull, to British television viewers last week. Although he is not even correct there, because Australia does not have an FTA with the EU. They are negotiating that at the moment. They had 9 very successful rounds already. But Australia does have agreements in other areas the UK will not have in a case of a no deal. So, if there is no deal now, the UK will not get Australia terms. They will get less. That's why I brought up the example of Afghanistan-style deal in another video, because that's more appropriate. They will not have Australia terms. Australia got better terms. But Johnson plays serenity, which the UK economy can't really afford. "We still have a few working days and do not even know whether we will face tariffs," complained Ian Wright of the British Food and Beverage Industry Association recently, with a view to the end of the 1-year transition phase. "Many companies do not know whether theirs will be production in the new year and what will be expected at all." The British newspapers at the weekend were filled with special pages listings what the British women face in the event of a no deal. 14% tariffs on tomatoes from the EU, 16% on cucumbers, 48% on ground beef, 57% on cheese. Britain imports 60% of its food in winter. In the automotive industry, semi-finished products would cost 2 to 4% more. The finished motor vehicles would be 1 inch more expensively by 10%. Besides the fact that more and more car manufacturers are talking about leaving the UK, I don't know if I published my BMW video before or after that one, so either you've seen it already or you will see it soon. According to the Automotive Association SMMT, the average profit margins in the industry are only around 4%. With a no deal, our British production would no longer pay off, quite simply, warns the operations manager of the Nissan concern, Ashwani Gupta. A year ago, Johnson visited the Nissan factory during the election campaign and claimed, you know him, "Brexit deal guarantees that the supply chains are secure, that we meet industry standards. Everything is done for the automotive industry." Johnson knew exactly that compliance with EU standards still had to be negotiated with Brussels and that the question of tariffs depended on it. Even more, at the time the UK Prime Minister had already written that he was not thinking of complying with EU standards of fair competition. At the time, Johnson also sounded that the risk that the country would stumble out of the EU without a deal was 1 in a million. Now the fear of a no deal in the country is so great that thousands of entrepreneurs are pre-ordering as many goods as possible out of fear of higher customs duties and border controls. In the port of Calais, not 9,000 but 12,000 articulated lorries are handled daily for the crossing to Great Britain. On the other side in Kent, thousands of trucks are also slowly crawling on the highways towards Dover and Folkestone. The alternative parking spaces announced by the British government are not ready. Excavators are still digging in the mud. The digital customs clearance system is not online. And I had no confirmation for that now, but I heard rumors that the whole site was flooded yesterday. I don't know how long I'll wait for the check in the next time I come. Hours, maybe days, said a Romanian truck driver. In order for them to keep delivering, no matter How tired the UK government has overruled EU rules on driving brakes. The semi-trailers from the EU deliver what the British economy orders. The British producer of crisps made from dried fruits, Nim's Fruit Crisps, has ordered 8 tons of lemons alone. The supermarkets are hoarding what they can get for the Christmas business and the transition to the impending no deal. Every industry is increasing its stocks, which were melted during the corona lockdown. The largest container port in the country, Folkestone, can no longer keep up. And the reason? The British government had ordered 11,000 containers with corona safety suits from China. They are now piling up at the port. It is so overloaded that ships from Asia are diverted to Southampton, Rotterdam, Amsterdam and Liverpool, where the goods do not belong. This only messes up the industry's supply chains. Actually, everything has to go smoothly. There are automobile companies that drive 80 semi-trailers a day for import and export. If the steering wheel is missing, the car won't be finished, warns Lloyd Mulcairns from the British Automobile Association SMMT. Honda had to stop production at the Swindon plant last week due to the delivery problems. As far as I know, they started again, but they had to stop. The industry fears that if there is a no deal, its annual production will drop from 1.7 million units at the time of the Brexit referendum to 800,000 units. That's less than half. Entrepreneur Jim Ratcliffe, who was still loudly promoting Brexit in 2016, decided recently what he preferred to have his new Land Rover produced in France. The other consequence of the delivery delays: toys, Barbies, Lego Star Wars, construction kits, scooters, coffee machines and construction tools. A lot of things that should be under the Christmas tree are sold out and will only be delivered in January. The government has organized special flights and ferries to ensure that there is no lack of medicines. The lack of additional customs officers shows that the British government is not prepared for a no deal. And in this case, not even for a deal, because the controls will still be there. They all don't want to work here, says an officer at the customs post in Dover Harbour. And what do you think was going on here in January? We can't do the job anymore. Chancellor of the Exchequer Rishi Sunak is already demanding billions in aid in the event that farmers, automobile manufacturers and other companies are suddenly confronted with tariffs in the event of a no deal. A government emergency commission is working feverishly to organize away the greatest chaos. Finally, the ministries have warned in confidential papers that price increases, delivery delays, lack of medicine and lack of compensation could even lead to unrest. In the new year, the British authorities want to forego border controls for months when trucks enter the UK, regardless of how many illegal immigrants hide in the hold between the tomatoes. Even if the government does not want to admit it, it is dependent on the mini-deals that the EU has offered and with which, in the event of no deal, at least the planes would fly, the trucks and the fishing boats would leave. All provided, of course, that Great Britain adheres to the associated EU standards of fair competition. At the same time, the minister responsible for Brexit preparations, Michael Gove, and EU Commissioner Maros Sefcovic have published details of how trade across the new customs border in the Irish Sea will work. It usually takes the industry a few weeks to plan cross-border deliveries. What do they think we are planning? It's all too late, says Wright of the British Food Association. That doesn't bother the Brexit press. They prefer to stir up the mood. The newspaper The Daily Mail was already pleased over the weekend that 4 British warships would soon take on the French if their fishermen plunder our seas. The newspaper already gave its readers advice on how they could support the nation in its difficult hour of betrayal by the petty and paranoid EU. Readers should now eat local sardines instead of imported salmon. Instead of the EU meat, prefer Japanese Kobe beef, because they have signed a treaty agreement with him. But do they really know what that stuff costs? I can't afford Kobe, my dear. With interest rates so low now during the economic crisis, readers should just buy a second house and drink English wine. And I don't know how much of that English wine those journalists have drunk, but do they know what people, the majority of people, and many of people with very low incomes can afford? Obviously not. If you want to stay informed, please subscribe to my channel, visit my other channels, I'll see you in my next video. Bis gleich.